Hey guys, I'm Azra, and in this Lord of the Rings Rise to War video I'm going to give you a guide about Lathar, since some people wanted to know how to main this commander and this is my best shot. Let's get going. So from his typing he is considered a balanced type commander, which I don't really like. This is his second best title if you ask me. His first and best title would be leader, because that's what he does. He doesn't specialize in commander damage, he is dealing the most damage with his army. To be more specific, with his reapers. Leader would have been much better for that case. Then looking at his attributes, his highest stat is might, which is okay. You want to max out your might as high as possible to increase your reapers damage. He has low amounts of focus, but this doesn't really bother us. He has nothing that skates with focus and neither nothing with speed. And his speed stat is also very high. He is outspeeding anything important. But speed and focus aren't really important for this commander. It is might that you need to keep an eye on. Push this as high as possible. I have Cutlass with melee might, belted armor with focus protection, task of pride, fortitude of soldiers, palantir of Orphanc with tactical mark. Now let's have a look at his build. I tried out a few different builds, but I ended up using this build as his best build. Alright, or at least this is what I found to be working the best for me. So let me go over this. To the top we have Reaper. We are just here to put 1 point into Precise Blow and Heartseeker. These active skills deal damage every other round. It's physical damage. It is targeting one enemy unit. Precise Blow has even the pursuit effect over here, while Heartseeker doesn't, but Heartseeker is targeting the unit with the lowest HP, and this too deals physical damage. But this isn't what he specializes in. Lathar isn't really good in dealing damage, so he isn't a warrior commander, he isn't a glass cannon. We are here, we spent only 1 point into this because this is important for this skill over here, Feint. And what this does is whenever your commander deals damage, be it with normal attacks or with active skills, which is why we have 1 point here and here, that counts as a stack to activate Feint. If you have 5 stacks of hits, then you get this buff. All of your units get a damage increase by 35% for their next attack. This is why it is important to have 1 point over here. Then we have Pallbearer, a very good title of his. This is boosting the damage of his Reapers and Stalkers by 30%, and maxed out this has an even better effect, because if you have any other unit present in your army besides Reapers and Stalkers, they protect these two units. Imagine if you have Fallen in your army. They are going to automatically protect your Reapers and Stalkers, which is great. I like this mechanic. Reapers and Stalkers are weak and maxed out. You have a little taunt mechanic built into your Respect Zero title over here. So you aren't really dependent on Mountain Trolls with their taunt, or let's say with Swan Knights and taunt. So this is basically taunt for any other unit not being Reapers and Stalkers. Then we have Deliberate Strike, which is activated every 3 rounds, targeting one enemy unit and deals 300 to 700% physical damage when maxed out. What I don't like this is it has a big range between its minimum and maximum damage. And Lathar isn't really good anyway. He isn't anywhere close in the meta. Maybe you want to buff this at least a bit. Like instead of 300 minimum damage, how about 500%? Just an idea. He desperately needs a buff, maybe even a rework. Next up is Ringwraith and Morgul Poison and Nazgul Screech. I don't think I need to really describe what this is. It's not his main mechanic. We are just here to put 1 point into Morgul Poison to have it as passive damage along the way. It's really coming down to that, passive damage along the way. 1 point into Nazgul Screech just to have a chance to stun 2 enemy units on round 1 every now and then. It's going to be active eventually. And then also one of his core mechanics is his Respect 5 tree. What I'm really referring to is Armor Corrosion, but we are kind of forced to waste 15 points into his Respect 5 title to have access to Armor Corrosion. Master of the Fallen, what this does is it is increasing the first damage dealt for your Fallen by 60%, and it scales with might. And there are so many things wrong with this title. Let me summarize it. First of all, it's only active for your Fallen, so you are locked into Angmar or into a campaign that is giving you access to Fallen. Second weakness of this title is it's only the first source of Fallen's damage, and then this buff is gone. And round 1 is one of the most susceptible rounds in the game, because your first attack can be evaded, it can be bypassed by inflicting your units with madness or just stunning your units, and then all of your 15 points spent into this skill are for nothing. It's a waste. Or how about a big damage mitigating skill such as White Council or Or Last Alliance, that is mitigating your first attacks by a lot. That means this attack has so many ways of getting bypassed or countered. I don't like this at all. Like, you should at least give this special effect, I don't know, maybe a longer time where it is active. Like, say at least for the first 5 rounds, your Fallen get this damage boost. That way, you can't be countered by the mechanics I just mentioned. Again, not great value. Let's continue. Armor Corrosion, well, this is actually great because your allied units, they ignore the target's defense by 35%. This is great. This means you're going to deal more physical damage, since Reapers and Fallen deal physical damage anyway. To the top, we have Mounted Combat. This is giving your mounted units a 20% chance to deal an additional attack, and when you max this out, your additional attack will deal 70% physical damage. I have tried to make this work, but I couldn't really find anything that was really shining with this, and if you ask me, Mounted Combat shines the most with 3 mounted units in your army, which Theoden or Eomer has, but it's not really working for Lathar. You will see it in the battle reports later. Now let me also summarize his strengths and weaknesses, and oh boy, I never had a case where I couldn't really list strengths. The only strength I have for Lathar is that he is boosting the damage of his Reapers, and that's it. But in contrast to that, I have found many weaknesses for Lathar, and maybe this is the reason why nobody is really maining Lathar. His first weakness is that he is susceptible to evade. Can't deal damage when your attacks can't connect. His second weakness is crowd control. I'm talking about Army Madness and Army Stun. You can't deal damage if you're attacking your own units. You can't deal damage when you're sitting in stun. His third weakness is elemental damage. You may have Fallen in your army composition that are tanky with high defensive stats, but that can be bypassed with elemental damage. His fourth weakness is that he is very gear dependent. Like, if you don't have tactical mark against evade, you are screwed. Or how about if you don't have a focus protection armor, you are screwed against commanders who specialize in elemental damage. Let's say Galadriel, or let's say Oathbreakers. And his last weakness is that he has high upkeep costs. 50% of your army is consisting of Fallen, and that is very expensive and takes a long time to conscript. Before I jump over to his gear, let me also show you a certain mechanic considering Feint. Since Feint is also one of your main mechanics, I wanted to point out that there is a certain item, and we are about to jump over to the itemization part, but I wanted to make this clear. There is a certain item which is going to give you more value with Feint, and let me show you a little graphic. This is the graphic that is showing you when his certain skills are active on certain rounds. And look at Feint. If you don't have the Frenzy effect, you have Feint active on 4 rounds. But if you equip Frenzy, you can have Feint activated 5 times in a battle. And not just only that, you can have it even active 1 round earlier. So instead of having it active on round 3, you can have it activated on round 2 already. And why am I saying this? Because the sooner you deal lots of damage, the more likely you are to win the upper hand in a battle. This is why. So this is very important for Lathar. You want to have a weapon with Frenzy. Unfortunately, he can't equip the Gigantic Hammer with Frenzy. Instead, you have the Mogul Blade, which can be carried by undead commanders. Lathar is an undead commander. It too has Frenzy. So I just want to point this out. He is a commander who is dealing steady damage, as you see every other round with these 2 attacks, but we need this to have Feint active more frequently. And that's what this is all about. Anyway, it is time to jump over the itemization part. So right now you see the best in slot items I recommend. If it comes to his purple gear, these are the best in slot items if you ask me. Cutlass with melee might to boost the overall damage of your melee units. Fallen and Reapers are going to benefit by this a lot, but especially your Reapers because of plus 3 attack. You have 100 units per command if it comes to Reapers. This shines the most with them. Then as your armor pieces, going to be the Superior Hauberk with melee vigor or quilted armor with focus protection, depending on what you're up against. If you're fighting against evil side, you may even consider running fire protection on your hauberk. As your best in slot helmets, you have Brutal Helmet with melee vigor and your Horseman's Helm with resolve. Like, you need to somehow be protected against Army Madness. Horseman's Helm is very important. And as your accessory, you don't have a lot to choose from. It's really just Drums of Moria with either Haste of Soldiers or Bane of Dwarves, depending against who you are fighting. If it comes to his golden gear, this is what I would recommend. So as his weapon, you definitely need to run the Mogul Blade, plus attack for your orcs, like your Reapers are going to benefit by this, similar to Cutlass, but above all, it has Frenzy. This is important because of Feint. I already showed you the little graphic to it, just to have Feint more frequently active. Then we have the Warborn Battleplate. Fallen and Reapers will get lots of damage mitigation from this because of the defense stat, but also lots of might and fortitude of soldiers. And as his helmet, you have two choices. The first and best choice is the Casque of the Submerged Isle with Aegis. This is covering two of your main weaknesses, Army Stun and Army Madness. But if you don't need to be afraid of CC, you can run the Casque of Pride, which would be even better if not fighting against CC. It has lots of might, defense, and fortitude of soldiers. Again, it's going to stack up with Warborn Battleplate's fortitude. If it comes to his accessories, you have two choices. I found myself in a situation where I always equip Tactical Mark. You never know when you're going to encounter a Gil-galad. If you happen to run against one and you don't have a Palantir of Orphanc, he's going to wipe you out completely. Like, you don't even stand a chance without Tactical Mark. But with Tactical Mark, you can at least try to hold your ground. You are going to kill half of his army before you die. And in any other cases where you don't need to like counter evade, you can equip Drums of Barad-dûr with either Might of Soldiers or Iron Guard. I prefer Might of Soldiers because I think that makes the most sense for him, unless you are running, let's say, Tactics Evolve and you have access to Haven for your Fallen. Maybe then Iron Guard be the better choice. But who knows, maybe the game devs have already patched the game that you no longer have access to Haven for your Fallen, so it's coming down to the special effects. This leads me to his Respect 10 item. Does this item make sense for him? Let's go over it. Decent amount of might and focus, plus attack for your mounted units. This isn't really great for your mounted units because plus attack is best value for 100 units per command. You only have 50 units per command if it comes to mounted units, so not that great value. The same counts for HP. But where this starts to shine, or at least have a bit of potential, is its special effect, Fallen Pioneer. Mounted units in general receive a certain percentage less damage. On top of that, your Fallen, for the first 5 rounds, they protect all of your units, and it isn't just a chance to protect, like maxed out, it is 100% chance to protect all of your units. And then, on top of it, minus 6% damage received for your Fallen. So, Fallen in total have minus 18% damage received if you count this together. The mounted units from the top minus 12% with minus 6% over here, which is more the reason I think he needs to have just Fallen and Reapers in his army composition. If you had like this 2 mounted unit army composition with Reapers, they wouldn't 100% benefit by the second special effect. And in the battle reports you will see how this works. Like, I've tried it out with mounted combat, and mounted combat didn't really work out like I thought it would. All in all, with his Respect 10 item, I think it makes the most sense to run this army composition over here. Reapers and Fallen only. Because it works the best with his Respect 10 item, and because mounted combat, the skill mounted combat, isn't really synergizing with only 2 mounted units. But who knows, I haven't unlocked his Respect 10 item, I have never seen anybody use this. Maybe there is someone out there who has already max refined this and can tell us more about this item. If there is someone, please let me know in the comments. How does this work out? Or generally speaking, if you have mained Lathar, how is PvPing going for you? It's time to have a look at Lathar's troop composition, and this is very straightforward. It's very easy. So what I ended up using is just 50% Reapers and 50% Fallen. It's as easy as that. If you want to find out the correct ratio of your Fallen, it's really coming down to experimenting. Fight certain commanders and see how many Fallen remain. If you have only 50 Fallen remain after a battle, that is the best case scenario that can happen to you, because that way you know that your Fallen survived enough to redirect all damage towards them. So that is how you can decide the correct ratio, and then you scale up your Reapers amount. If you want to run your Lathar with 2 mounted units and the skill mounted combat, what I would do is this. I would have 3k Reapers, 1100 Dragoons and 1100 Fallen. But again, this isn't really the ideal troop composition for him. time. You still get some value out of this, but not as much as the 50-50 composition of Reapers and Fallen. And there you go. This is his troop composition. Before I get started with the battle reports analysis, let me give a big shout out to a few players. Millie was one of the first who volunteered to these experiments, so thanks to Millie and Darkness and also Nate, we could do some testing. Thank you guys, you were a big help in getting this guide out. Alright, first report against Gandalf the Grey. As you see, I am using 2 mounted units in this case, and I'm going to show you all of my experiments. And what I have done this time is I maxed out his bottom respect 0 tree with his respect 5 tree, and also mounted combat, and also 1 point into a precise blow, Heartseeker, just to have feint more frequently active. As you see, this is the gear I used at the start of this video, and this is as far as we go. Not great value at all. Look at the Reapers, they have Heartseeker, max upgraded, Dragoons with Rupture, Fallen with light armor, but still it wasn't good enough. I'm fighting Gandalf, he has these items, Mirkwood Bow, ranged might, Hunter Skin, ranged vigor, Trapper's Hood, Hysteria, Wizard's Fireworks, Hunter's Mark. Overall, this is a good skilled Gandalf the Grey with a deadly troop composition. Sharpshooters with light armor, then Rangers of the North with light armor as well, and Spirits of the Wood with Remedy. It is a strong Gandalf Grey player. Let's check out the snapshot page. We have done only around 140k damage versus around 288 damage. And you see our Fallen got wiped out immediately. They couldn't even deal damage, as you see. This is nothing. Reapers always end up dealing the biggest chunk of our damage. Lathar's damage isn't great at all. He isn't a damage dealing commander. Here is a fight against Dwalin, and I used the very same build against him. Let's just check it out quickly. You see it is very similar, but instead of maxing out feint, this time I maxed out the mounted combat skill. There it is. Same gear, same special effects. This is the result. Not really great, kind of disappointing. Like, we lack the wow effect. There is no wow effect over here. Dwalin has these items: Warhammer with Concussion, Superior Hauberk with Shroud, Full Hand with Remotivate, Drums of Moria with Haste of Soldiers. And this Dwalin has specialized into countering Witch Kings. Imagine if he spent his R5 points into his top R0 tree, that would have meant that he could deal more damage against us. So this report also disappointing for Lathar. After that, I decided to change my build a bit. So here I am running 2 mounted units again, but my build is a bit different, as you see. In this case, I have specialized more into commander damage. I maxed out his top R0 tree. Commander damage, and also commander damage with Deliberate Strike. Was this enough? Let's see. This too is kind of disappointing, isn't it? Let's check out Gandalf. It is the same Gandalf, nothing has changed. In the snapshot page, we see that we have done 170k damage, while we have received around 260k damage. Very disappointing. Again, nothing special over here. And our Reapers couldn't even deal a lot of damage this time. I continued with the same build. Let's have a look at Lathar. You see commander damage once more, but in this case I couldn't even hold my ground. Theoden just completely wiped out my army, and Theoden has these items: Cutlass with Melee Might, Auberk with Fire Protection, Horseman's Helm with Resolve, and Hiflane with Bane of Orcs. And his units have these special effects: Light Armor, Cataphracts with Blessed Armor, and Cavalier. And I see there is a lot of room for improvement, like the correct special effects, and also I would have built the Theoden a bit different. I would have preferred to max out Chaotic Retreat, and also instead of Riding Excellence, I definitely would have maxed out Mounted Combat, since that's where 3 mounted units shine the most and deal lots of damage. But we still managed to lose this fight. Look at this. It's still not enough, and Theoden could have been much stronger than this. This just proves how bad Lathar is. And now I tried another build, and this is the meta build I recommended to you in this video. Like, this is what brought me the most chances of surviving or even winning some fight. So, as you see, we have won this fight. Let's check out Lathar. You see, this is the exact same build I showed you. The same gear, these units, like Reapers, 50% of my army consists of Reapers, and Fallen. And what they do is, they do the same thing. Both specialize in getting stronger towards the later rounds. If you can make it to round 5 and later, Execution will give you lots of damage. And since you have Fallen, they tank for your Reapers are safe. With Execution, they are going to deal lots of damage, while your Fallen they keep stacking the special effect Spite. So there is lots of synergy between these two units. And what Lathar does is exactly that, increasing the damage of Reapers while further increasing the damage of Reapers with armor corrosion and making your fallen tank, and they benefit with Spite. We also have 1 point into Precise Blow and Heartseeker just to have Feint more frequently active. And all of those experiments have led to this build. Maybe there's someone out there who is maining Lathar who has even better results than this. If yes, please let us know in the comments. I'm eager to see what works better. Anyway, in the snapshot page, we have done around 250k damage versus 140k-ish damage. And you see our Reapers have done 170k damage. And then I kept continuing with the very same build I have shown to you just to see how far we can get. I encountered a Gil-galad. This is Darkness. Thanks again, Darkness, for this fight. So even though I had plenty of Orphaned with Tactical Mark, he still managed to totally destroy me. And he has Icicle. This too is one of our biggest weaknesses. 2 of my units are susceptible to stun. Every 3 rounds, I get a full damage shutdown for my 2 units. The only way to bypass this against Gil-galad is if I were to equip a helmet that is giving me stun immunity. In an ideal case, I want to have stun immunity for Reapers because they deal the main source of my damage. So I think the War Helm with the stun immunity for Orcs is the way to go against this Gil-galad. So Gil-galad has these items: Elven White Knife with Might of Elves, Hunter Skin with Ranged Vigor, Full Helm with Melee Vigor, Harp of Lothlorien with Elf Strength, and yeah, this is a pretty much meta build Gil-galad with Sentinels and Dispersion, with Bow Knights and Dispersion as well, and Herald with Light Armor. Okay, and in the snapshot page we have done around 190k damage versus almost 300k damage. It is what it is. We have lost this fight, even with Tactical Mark. Now let this be my last report. I am still continuing with the meta build I am recommending here. And this time we have won this fight, but there is a special reason for this. And by the way, thank you Nate for this report. It was a nice fight. I equipped Focus Protection, and this was the only reason how I could counter Galadriel. This item is a hardcore counter against her. And yeah, same build, same special effects for the units. Let's check out Galadriel. Carver with Smite, Scale Mail with Melee Vigor, Armor Cask with Warding, and Smoking Pipe with Sustain. It is a strong Galadriel as you see, but yeah, I just had the Focus Protection up. Guard of the Tower with Divide and Conquer, and Sentinels with Dispersion. But he is using a Sentinels just as a decoy because of the 100% evading mechanic, which is a smart move. The only thing I may add to this would be maybe have 1 more of these evading units so he has 2 decoys instead of 1. In the snapshot page we have done almost 330k damage versus around 140k damage. Let's look in the detailed view. Wow, like Reapers did almost 280k damage, and this is Lathar's strength, boosting the damage of his Reapers, the only strength. And that's it for my guide, guys. Like seriously, I'm very disappointed in Lathar. I could only find 1 strength, Reapers, and if you ask me, this commander deserves a buff, maybe even a rework. But what do you think about Lathar? If you enjoyed this one, just like always, let me know, like subscribing, liking, or sharing the video. That helps a lot. And that being said, I see you guys next time.